Hey everybody, welcome back live at Drew's House, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Hope you're all doing well out there as we enter fall and all that craziness. It was a really good stretch to end the summer here, so that was always nice. Our guest today, I think second appearance on the show, really enjoyed her first one about a year ago or so. Molly Hogan in the house, Newburyport athletic trainer. How are you, Molly?
I am so great, Drew. How are you?
Doing good. Is that right, about a year ago? Do you remember?
I think so. It might have been 2 years ago.
Oh,
I think it was 2 years
Too
ago.
long, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, I saw you at the football game the other
Happy to
night.
be back.
Said I've been meaning to have you on again because you were very informative. We are off and running with the fall school sports and everything. That means busy time of year for you.
Crazy busy. My office is a revolving door, it feels like.
Is that a lot of Newburyport injuries or just run-of-the-mill stuff?
A couple run-of-the-mill things fall just generally with the volume of sports, especially football. There's just so many injuries, but a lot of times it's just aches and pains, and they're so used to having me here now and having this system that it's a lot of things that they can play through, just soreness and tweaks and things here and there, but it's been great. I'm still loving every minute.
Spoiled, these guys.
For sure. It is unlike any other high school athletic training program around.
Yeah, people have been raving about all the facilities over there. I mean, the weight room, I guess, is state of the art now at Newburyport, and obviously the football field is relatively spruced up and all that, and it's more than a football field, but it's a great spot to be an athlete in Newburyport.
It really is. They are set up for success in so many different aspects.
What is what is the biggest, most common injury in the fall? Is there something like this season brings more than others?
I would say probably in the fall more than anything else we see a lot of shin splints or medial tibial stress syndrome. Okay. Basically, I'm sure everybody has heard of shin splints before. Not many people actually know what they are or how they're caused. Typically it's overuse, but a lot of the times it's actually just a positional thing. And nowadays, the shoes that they make, the most popular shoes, the trendiest shoes, the shoes everyone wants at the store, are terrible for your feet. Just absolutely terrible. And the orthopedic style looking or dad style sneakers are actually the ones that are the best for your feet, as it turns out.
My New Balance.
Exactly. Who knew all this time that our neon Nike sneakers were actually doing more harm than good? So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing. But
really,
depending on the athlete and what sport they play, we take a look at their feet first and their arches and the positioning of their feet, and kind of work from the bottom all the way up and see how the feet are affecting the rest of their running posture and their stride and everything like that. Yeah. And sometimes just with a little bit of arch support or a little bit of support in other aspects of the feet or mobilization of the joints of the feet, the problem goes away.
So a lot of track injuries you're already kind of hinting at.
A little bit, yes, but also just the increase of activity from the summer where a lot of kids are doing nothing, or a lot of kids play club sports in the summer too, but most of them, as they should, take time off and take time to break, and then coming back into activities where we see a lot of it.
So you're sending a lot of parents out to go buy new shoes, is that?
Pretty much. We're looking at a lot of orthotics. We're looking at a lot of arch insoles, stuff like that, and the brand new fancy cleats that everyone gets. I'm like, these are actually terrible. They're causing more problems.
Is there a new wave of fancy cleats?
There are, especially in some sports like soccer and lacrosse. They have these new style that I call them sock style, so they don't actually have laces. So they eventually stretch out, and I've seen them fall off kids' feet.
I've never been comfortable with the no laces.
No, and they have some that are extremely tight around the ankle joint and stuff, and allow for limited movement, which it can be beneficial in some cases, but harmful in others. And we've seen in professional programs or collegiate programs where the whole team will get the same shoe, and that causes a whole bunch of problems because not everybody has the same foot, not everybody has the same body. So what works for one person is not going to work for another one, and that's just the way it is.
Have you guys had to prescribe different cleats because of the when I played sports, almost everything was real grass, and it seems like everything now is almost all turf.
It is very much for the most part turf, and our turf at Newburyport is a little bit different than some of the turf at other schools around, just in the feel of it. Some schools have really cushy, soft, bouncy turf. Ours isn't exactly like that. There's a little bit of bounce to it, but not a ton. Yeah. And our grass it's the weirdest thing. It gets like trimmed, and everyone looked at me funny last year. I was like, why do we mow the turf? It doesn't grow. Like, how do we get all these grass clippings of the turf that are everywhere? Just because it's a different, you know, synthetic turf material than other turfs around here.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting. It makes it look like we mowed the lawn at school. We don't have grass.
Yeah. Why are they mowing the turf?
I was very confused. No one could really give me an answer about it either.
Yeah, it must just be breaking apart a little bit.
Something like that. I don't know, cleaning up bald spots in it. But we do see a lot of kids have multiple pairs of sports shoes in their bags at this point. Whether it's turf shoes, regular sneakers that they wear specifically for running, because a typical running sneaker and a regular athletic sneaker are designed differently, which can have a huge impact on your performance and pain.
This time of year, you get some hot days. We definitely started the school year off with some hot days.
For sure.
I'm sure there's hydration talks being done all over the map, right?
Yes, we've you know, as we're getting into the cooler days and stuff, we're not as, you know, I don't want to say worried or vigilant, because we definitely still are, or I am at least. But in the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks of preseason that we have, myself and other athletic trainers across the country use what's called a wet bulb globe thermometer.
Yep.
So the wet bulb combines all sorts of things like cloud cover, air quality, wind speed, the actual temperature, the heat index, and the dew point, like everything, all that it combines, and it comes up with the lowest possible temperature it could feel like once the sweat has evaporated from your body. So if you think about it, when your body is hot to cool itself down, it sweats. That sweat evaporates into the air, and the body is able to cool itself down.
Yep.
If the air is mostly moisture, so a really, really humid day, there's nowhere for that sweat to go, because there's nowhere for it to evaporate. And then the body can't properly cool itself down, and that's where you run into really dangerous situations with heat illness, heat stress, heat exhaustion, things like that.
Yeah.
And especially in the last recent years, where we've seen a decrease in activity in certain, you know, ages of kids related to COVID. We see a lack of conditioning over the last couple of years, also related to COVID and, you know, activity modification and stuff like that. So it's something that we have to be super, super aware of, even though, you know, we don't live in a state like Texas or Florida where we think about it really being that hot.
Yeah.
It's really not even the heat. I know, it's the humidity. Everybody says that, but it really is. That's the most dangerous part. So the MIAA has different levels of activity, and based on those temps that we get from the wet bulb reading, based on how much we can do. So in the fall, football's really the most affected by it, because they wear equipment, helmets, pads, everything like that.
Yeah.
But all of our other sports is still affected based on time and how much they're able to do in a certain day.
It's completely smart. I mean, even people like, even on not the hottest days in the world, you're right, it is the humidity. I played tennis my whole life, and I was out there, you know, I know how to play in the heat. I like the heat.
Yep.
I was out there on a very hot day this summer playing my cousin, and we had a long match. It was a battle, and I was hydrating the whole time, drinking what I felt like was a lot. You know, the water bubbler over there, I kept refilling, and so I was hydrating as we went. But it didn't feel, there was not breeze, but the sun was coming on us, and it was still getting me. And those courts heat up quickly.
For sure.
I ended up getting heat stroke, or a form of it.
Yep.
It was bad. Like I finished the match and everything. Went home, went out to lunch. I remember I was meeting my dad for lunch, had lunch, came home like an hour later and started like getting a little shaky. And I was like, I have a fever suddenly.
Exactly.
And this is heat stroke. Oh my God, I hate this. It was horrible.
Super, super dangerous.
Yeah, it was scary.
Especially in like a situation like tryouts for sports where kids are nervous to speak up and say that they might be struggling.
Yeah, and they're pushing themselves hard, of course.
Exactly, because they want to perform well. So it's something that we definitely have to be aware of, and especially on the surface like turf, where we're really lucky that the little rubber beads in our turf are green instead of black, which would attract a whole lot more sunlight. Yeah. But it is...
That must heat up still, though.
It still does. It's about 10 degrees warmer, give or take a couple degrees on the turf than it is off the turf. Yeah. Which can make a huge difference. Luckily,
you're right. Some of those old school turfs, though, oh man, those were getting really hot.
For sure. And all of our coaches over the last couple of years have been, you know, very aware of it. So in the fall preseason, we don't have any teams at the school from like noon to almost 4:30. So the hottest time of the day, nobody's there, nobody's on the turf, or nobody should be anyway in those most dangerous days. Football tries to go really, really early in the morning and then late in the evening because they are the ones usually most affected by these rules.
Yeah.
But heat stroke and heat illness can happen to anyone at any temperature and at any age.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very used to being on the tennis court, and I was caught off guard by it. I was like, man.
Yep. The other important thing is make sure you're replenishing electrolytes too as you're sweating them out. So water's great, water's awesome, but don't make it the only thing you're drinking in those.
Should have done
super
more
hot
of that.
days.
You're right. There you go. The it's funny too because it's not funny is the wrong word, but it's one of those things where like the temperature kind of gets on you quickly. Once you don't know you're gonna get heat stroke until you get it, and then suddenly your temperature is high and you're like, do I need to go to the hospital? Like luckily I was able to get it down with ice packs and everything. But like when your temperature skyrockets, it's not something you wish to have upon anybody.
So the treatment for one of these scary situations, the best like gold standard treatment is actually cold water immersion, and it's something that a lot of EMS crews don't
get the
have
body
training
right
on.
in cold water.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
So we have been, we're really fortunate that we have my office very, very close to the turf. We have other resources to set up cold water immersion at our fields all over town.
Ice baths is what we're talking
Essentially, yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's the fastest way to recover. And then once the body gets down to a safe temperature, a safe core temperature, normal core temperature, then you want to transport to the hospital, stuff like that. And it's something that a lot of athletic trainers are working with local EMS crews to educate them on, because when someone sees someone struggling like that in the heat, first thought is call 911 and they'll bring them to the hospital. But what you need to do first is cool the body down.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And time is a big deal on that.
Time is crucial.
Like most of those things, right? They stay
exactly.
Pretty much every injury.
Exactly.
You want to get right on it. Again, Molly Hogan joining us, the athletic trainer over at Newburyport. It brings up an interesting thing because I did this. It was actually a winter, maybe it was 2 winters ago now. Time is such a weird thing for me these days. But I did like a thing for charity where a guy jumps in the water every day and raises money. And I did it in the ocean. It was freezing and stuff. And he says he does it twice a day. And I'm like, my God. And then, but afterwards, I was like, I kind of get it. Like you'd feel my body felt great.
It
was
can
like
be great.
like what no coffee ever did for me. I had energy all day and just I don't know, good for the joints. And that essentially is what we're talking about with healing the body after a medical issue. But what's the what do you know about that?
It's funny you ask. It's kind of a heated, well, I guess chilled debate
nice.
whether the effects of ice, because historically any type of musculoskeletal injury, the gold standard is always RICE, right? Rest, ice, compression, elevation.
Yep.
And more and more studies are showing how that's actually might not be the case.
Mm-hmm.
And active recovery, getting the heart rate going, blood flowing, stuff like that might actually be better in some cases, not all. Ice is still great and important in cases like surgical recovery.
Yep.
If you're a really high endurance athlete, high level Olympic athlete, ice baths and cold tubs and stuff like that can be super beneficial. At the high school level, there's research debating whether or not it can be beneficial or harmful. Everybody always asks, is one of the biggest questions I get in my office, is what's this tub for? Do people take ice baths? And then the short answer, no. It's really just a big drain. We have so many different modalities and different levels of treatment at the high school that have studies that show that they work better than a cold tub would. Yeah. So I always recommend to them that we try one of these first to help whatever it is, because the studies that are out there right now are showing that cold tubs and like that can actually harm the level of protein synthesis after workout. And where you want your body to be able to synthesize protein, recover, get stronger, build up more muscle, ice baths might be limiting that.
Interesting.
So there is a place for them, but there is also a place for other active recovery and
Gotcha.
warm types of exercise.
So. I always look at those people who even in the wintertime, I'll take my dog to the beach.
Yeah.
And there's people swimming.
It has amazing health
those people
benefits.
are always in great shape. There must be something to it.
If you can withstand it. The other reason I tell my high schoolers no is because it's very, very trendy, obviously. So they see it everywhere. And most of them hate it as soon as it takes so much prep work on my part to fill up the ice bath, my whole office gets soaked, and they get in for like less than a second, and they're like, no, never mind, I hate it, I want to get out.
Oh, come on.
Buy your own ice and market basket. Do it at home if you really want to try it.
Is that mostly boys? That feels like a thing a guy would do.
Yeah, for sure. Mostly. The girls aren't really all that into it to begin with.
Much more practical, the girls. Come on, boys.
Exactly.
Cowards. You got to try these things.
So there's some studies that say it's
They
great.
make you go buy the ice, and then they do get in for 1 second?
Well, we have a giant industrial ice machine that is by far the most popular thing in my office because of the style of ice. It's the crushed nugget ice, or the Chick-fil-A ice, as the students call it. So the longest line after school in my office is just to fill up their Stanley cups with the best ice. In the best ice in the universe. I bet half the kids that come in for ice don't even know my actual name. They just know me as the ice lady.
That is so sad.
Is what it is.
That was the most 2024 thing I've ever heard. The kids come in with their Stanley Cup for their, was it Chipotle ice?
Chick-fil-A ice. Wherever. It was Sonic ice when I was a kid, but we don't have Sonic around here anymore.
Oh, man, that is too funny. Well, all right. Well, that's all very interesting. I bet there's, in this world of social media and everything, like there's, I mean, it happens to me too. I see stuff thrown at me, and I say, it's interesting, and I like to check things out and explore them, and sometimes try them if I think they are conducive to me. But, like, what about, do you ever get hit with, like, maybe not as big with the high schooler? I'm guessing this is more of an adult thing, but like the fasting thing?
Yeah, it can. I haven't seen too much of it in the high school.
This is more like adults, I think, battling.
Definitely, but like the intermittent fasting trends and stuff like that, and really, I think it's just another part of diet culture and diet fads, and what's new and trendy right now, and it'll be another new thing next year, where they tell you to eat as much as you can within a certain limited amount of hours in the day. Complete opposite. But don't see too much of it at the high school level right now. As far as like nutrition wise goes, we're really focusing on discouraging energy drinks, trying to get them off of caffeine. I love a cup of coffee or even 2 in the day, but the amount of energy drinks that these kids have and the rushes, don't get me wrong, Aroma Joe's is great, but you should not be drinking a rush before sports.
Is a rush like a Red Bull?
Essentially, I think, with extremely sugared flavored syrup in it. One of them last year during athletic training month got me a rush as a little appreciation gift. It was so kind, and I took like 2 sips, and I think I had sugar rush for the rest of the day. Oh, really?
And you drink coffee, so
exactly,
so it must have been pretty strong.
They're extremely strong, and these kids are having 2-3 a day and running around on the field playing sports.
Wow.
So that's putting heart rate at extremely high levels already.
That's funny. I don't remember. They were definitely around, energy drinks. Maybe not quite as popular as now, but I mean, they were around when you were
They've become so
Do you
trendy.
Remember that? Like before a high school match or whatever?
No, not really. I mean, like a water or a Gatorade, but I never had like a Monster or a C4 or any of these other crazy Sour Patch style kids energy drinks, the Alani News.
And these kids are just doing it to get ready for practice.
Most of them, And I have a sign in my office on the ice machine, since it's so popular, that discourages them from drinking them if they're thinking about college sports, because they're actually banned. Caffeine in that high of a dosage in these drinks is not allowed. It's an illegal substance in the NCAA in certain amounts. And then there's other supplements in those energy drinks and stuff that are also banned by the NCAA. So it's, if you're a senior, even a junior thinking about playing college sports, kick the energy drinks.
Don't rely on those things.
Get rid of them, because you do get randomly drug tested as a college athlete, and even if you're not doing anything dangerous, those things will still come up, and it can limit your playing time, limit your scholarships, all that sorts of stuff too.
Wow, that's interesting.
And it has an effect on your mental performance too.
Yep. And those things don't. I mean, from what I can remember. And, I guess I started drinking coffee in high school, I think, late in high school, but I definitely started doing that. But the energy drinks, like they're short bursts, really. It's not like they do wear off kind of quickly, and you do kind of
And we find so many kids get to halftime and they're exhausted. Exhausted. I'm like, well, I don't have another, Monster for you on the sidelines right now. The best I can do is a cup of Gatorade. So, or even what we have, the kids have become so accustomed to for cramping, we have little shots of pickle juice for them, which is super beneficial and awesome. And some of them even drink it preventatively now before their games, just to prevent any cramps.
It's an old tennis trick.
Exactly.
I never liked it. Oh, it's the worst. The only thing worse than cramping is pickle juice. Right?
And we ran out of pickle juice at one of the last football games last year, and had to stick with mustard, another go-to hack. So I lift up your helmet, stick out your tongue, squirt mustard in the mouth.
Oh my God. I never did that one.
They
That one's-
hated me.
Yeah.
They hated me for that one.
Oh, do you want to stop cramping or
It
no?
worked though.
Yeah, mustard's. I didn't realize
It
that
works.
was one.
Yep. Very high sodium and magnesium contents.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Learn something new every day. Does the average high schooler drink coffee these days? Does it
I think definitely. I don't see as much coffee as I do all the other like
the energy drinks?
The
Wow.
energy drinks,
Yeah.
the Starbucks boba, multi-layered colored drinks, and the rushes from Aroma Joe's.
Wow.
I find a lot less of them drink like actual iced coffee, and everything's bright, vibrant colors.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
And I take it there's an Aroma Joe's in Newburyport.
There's one just over on Bridge Road in Salisbury, and then there's one over near the old Cinemagic in Salisbury. So they have two locations
but not
now.
like naturally. I mean, there's a lot
they
of
still
other.
have to go kind of far. So they
Yeah.
all definitely carpool, or they send one person that's going. And
Is that specifically for the
coming with
rush
a
drink?
tray. Yeah. I think
Okay.
there's a special deal on Tuesdays or
Oh my
something. So
goodness.
they go, and it's a whole. They've got it down to a science. They really do.
Wow, the kids are on this. Okay, this is stuff I never imagined you dealing with. But
Right?
that's
Me either.
2024 life.
I
Okay.
did not learn this in school.
You were a UNH, correct? If
I
remember
was,
correctly?
yes.
Good,
UNH
good.
2020.
Remind people, did you? Because I always think it's nice. I think people sometimes watch this show and think, "Hey, that's something I could maybe be interested in." You went to school for it, or did
I
you-
did. So I
yeah.
graduated from UNH in 2020 with my bachelor's in athletic training. Since I have graduated, athletic training has transitioned to a master's only program, which is awesome, but also kind of sad because UNH didn't pick it up as a master's option. So that means that my program no longer exists
Aw.
at the college that I went to, which is very sad.
That is sad.
And it's really going to have an effect on their athletic programs as a whole because the student athletic training department is what made up those sidelines and all of those support
Yeah.
for the certified athletic trainers that are there. And they're actually getting students from other colleges that preceptors are teaching student athletic trainers from other programs. Interestingly enough, I'm actually going to become a preceptor starting tomorrow. I have a master's student who's going to be shadowing me for part of her clinical orientation hours, just getting patient experience one-on-one in the high school setting.
Oh, nice.
And she's finishing her rotation at UNH right now. So she'll finish up there, and then she'll come to Newburyport, and she'll see quite the difference between, I'm sure, the programs as a whole. But I'm really, really excited to be able to teach somebody all the things that I learned just in the past couple of years of working with the high schoolers.
Yeah, it is one of those jobs where things are kind of, you have your basics, but things, the
Exactly.
world is kind of changing on you.
For
at
sure.
times, right?
You can learn it.
Yeah.
You can prepare for every possible situation, and every day is still going to give you something new in this
Yeah.
job. Every day is something different, and it always keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, it's what you
Sure.
like about it, but
Yes.
they can make for tough days too,
It
of course.
definitely
but,
can. It definitely can, especially when you're someone who feels things, deeply. So everything
Yeah.
that my athletes are going through, I feel for them. And we've had a couple already really tough senior season-ending injuries
really?
that I've lost a lot of tears in the past
Yeah.
2 weeks
That
alone.
happened last time we talked. That happened to you
I
too.
think so, probably. The
Yeah.
fall season is rough for
Yeah.
injuries, and it never gets easier having to break that news to families.
Is it
And
like literally school year out, or just like this fall is
just
their
this,
sport?
this fall, and
Yeah.
it's the sport they care a lot about, and
Yeah, that can be devastating, no
they've,
doubt.
worked 4 years to get to play Friday night football, and
Yeah.
one night changes everything, and it's
Yeah.
it's awful. Especially this year, the seniors were my first freshman class here, so to see the kids that I've seen grow up through high
Yeah.
school in the last 4 years, to tell them their senior year is senior season's over, it
Yeah.
never gets easier.
What kind of injuries you seen already?
We've had a couple of
Breaks.
we had 2 broken ankles so far in football. A couple other gnarly football things.
Yeah.
That, like I said, everything keeps you on your toes.
Do you know?
I've seen.
I know it was the other side, the Bedford side, but that game
Yes.
a week or two ago. What was is that kid ended up being okay?
He did wind up being okay. It
Yeah.
was mostly precautionary.
Concussion precaution,
Concussion
right?
related. Yep. He had a history of prior concussions, and family is unfamiliar with Newburyport, unfamiliar with the area. Things are, emotions are high. It's an uncomfortable situation. So in that case, it was purely, we have a ride that can get you to the hospital fast. They know where it is.
Yeah.
They're familiar with the area. Let's call them. We don't want people driving. We don't need more than one person in an ambulance. That sort of situation.
Were saying we can
exactly.
take them. Yeah.
So one of those situations where this seems like the safest option. We have the resources.
Yeah.
We have the means to put it together. So,
and then it gets to I don't know
you.
exactly the rules on that, but I imagine the school's liable for a lot of that stuff.
It can be.
You don't want to be sending your kid off to the injury on your watch and just send them away.
Yeah, it's never something that's easy to deal with. But luckily, our staff at Newburyport, we've come up with emergency action plans and gone over what to do in that situation. And our team physician, Dr. Heaton, he comes to our Friday night football games. He practices out of Mobility Bone and Joint Institute in Haverhill. And he is a fantastic resource, especially for concussions, but for all sorts of sports injuries. And he's a fantastic person as well. I'm really, really lucky to know and work with him.
Is that who you were talking to when I approached you?
Yes,
okay.
yes, it was. That's who I was with.
Didn't know that guy.
Big, tall guy. He's fantastic. A lot of the athletes that I've sent and parents that I've sent to see him really appreciate that. Like, his number one question to athletes is, what's your goal? Like, what are we trying to get back to here? Is this your main sport? Is this something we do for fun? What are we working with here? And I think that's more than a lot of doctors today are willing to look into and see what's important to the patient, and that's important to him. So it's a really, really awesome resource to have someone who practices the same way that I do.
I do like seeing the, especially with football, but it's all sports. Soccer is another big one.
Yes.
But the cautiousness with concussions or possible concussions,
Definitely.
If there's any signs of it, just don't mess around with head stuff.
Exactly.
Get them out of the game.
You get one brain. You got to take care of it.
Right?
You only get one brain.
Yeah.
Only get one body in general, but
exactly
one brain, and it takes one day to change your whole life.
I mean, it's happening
really
at the NFL level right now with the two.
For sure. It's a very sad situation, and I hope that he has.
I kind of hope he retires.
I hope so too.
3 is a lot at that age.
It is, and he luckily has the resources of a professional football player to have an incredible support system and incredible doctors and incredible, rehabilitation techniques that not every athlete has. So even just the importance of having an athletic trainer or coaches that are educated on the signs can make all the difference.
No doubt.
All the difference.
How does that work for you on the field when injury on the visiting team? As the home field, are you responsible, or do they have their own team?
It depends on the sport. For sports like football, they have to have, for varsity football, they have to have another athletic trainer on the sidelines.
Okay.
In the recent years, not every school around here has been able to do that.
Yeah.
So last year.
Does every school have an athletic trainer?
Not full time.
Gotcha.
Not even part time. Some of them. So a lot of schools either contract through a hospital or other healthcare service. I'm hired directly through the city of Newburyport, so I work for the high school.
Gotcha.
And some places hire other contracts like Mass General Brigham or other physical therapy clinics and stuff like that, athletic trainers come and work part-time for them. But when they hit their, 20 hours, 30 hours a week, they hit it. And so then you do have some games and events that wind up going uncovered because, in that contracted level, it's just the way it works out. So I wind up working some crazy hours just because I wind up all over the place. I'm sure people have seen me at multiple fields in a day and all over the place, but
well, that's why they love you there, of course.
Keeps me on your toes.
Molly Hogan, this has been great as always. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having
Before
me.
I ask one more, I want to say thank you to Maeve Power, producing our show as always.
Yes, thank
we
you,
had fun at the football game the other night too. Maeve was doing all the hard work as usual.
Saw me running around.
Actually, I will say the broadcasting those games is a little harder. Those names every year are. So I couldn't. What is up with the rosters at these games? They don't give you rosters anymore.
You have to buy a program.
It's unbelievable.
You got to support the program. Support Newburyport Athletics. It's $5 for a program. We do accept Venmo.
I didn't even know that. Crazy. Although I did hear there's actual reason for that. Because the kids of visiting teams were chanting names or something, so they're trying to keep.
Yes, I think we did do that in the playoffs.
No, I think it's an
point.
MIAA thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was noticing it all. People would be in the press boxes and we don't know who's
just don't be jerks.
Yeah.
Just don't be jerks.
Damn kids. No, just kidding. You're all great. Thank you, Maeve. Thank you, Sarah Hayden, the boss, Ryan Rothberg, our small but mighty team here in Newburyport. So this is a work day for you. It's a school day.
It is.
Wow.
School and work.
They're calling us. They're saying, get to the fields. How does this look? So there's games going on. There's practices going on.
There is everything going on.
Yeah.
Today we have...
You just bounce all around?
From 2:42 to probably 3:15, it'll be absolute chaos in my office with everyone trying to get taped, fill up their Stanleys with ice, trying to get snacks from the stack station, just trying to do all sorts of things. It'll be chaos. And then 4 o'clock, we have girls soccer at home versus Ipswich today.
So you'll be there.
I will be there. And I honestly forget anything else that's happening because I know I have to be there, and that's all I know.
Yep, and then you'll run wherever
then
you're
we
called.
have some football practice later this evening, so...
All right. Well, thank you for making some time for us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
As
Happy
always.
to be here.
Let you get back to the fields. Molly Hogan, always
Thank you
enjoy
so
our
much.
time with her. Thank you, Maeve. Live at Drew's house, Joppa Afternoon Drive. We'll see you next time, everybody. Peace.